Hello everybody and welcome back to the K Maps channel. This is Kay Kritiques, a segment on this channel where we discuss all things South African television. So if that's the type of content that you like, please do make sure that you like this video, subscribe to the channel, share it on your social media platforms, and leave a comment down below in the comment section. Wow, I haven't said that in a long time and I do apologize. I do have some videos that are in storage. It's just that I haven't had the time and also just the mental capacity to be able to edit and release them, and I also don't think they are good enough to be released. Like, there are some things that I've been reviewing, like Your Fatal Seduction, Homewrecker movie, but if you guys want them, please do let me know in the comment section down below. And I'd also like to thank you guys. Wow, I cannot believe this. Thank you guys so much for 1,000 subscribers. As I'm making this video, we are a little bit past 1,000 subscribers, and I will definitely be doing 1,000 subscribers giveaway soon. So please do stay tuned to the channel. Check that out. I might even post it on the community tab. So please make sure that you have your notification bell on so that you are notified every single time I post. You do not want to miss this. I'm still kind of figuring out what type of giveaway I want to do. Today we are discussing Shaka Ilembe. It has been approximately 2 weeks since the season finale came out, and I finally feel like I'm ready to discuss the series. And I also just wanted to give it the respect that it deserves. Like, Zulu, and as a Zulu person, I really do respect my culture. This is my story, the story of my forefathers. I am descended from the line Zulu. So for me, because there's something about this series, and I was recently watching an interview with Mthembu, who played Godongwana / Dingiswayo, and Wiseman, Ncube, who played Zwide. They said even while they were shooting, they would have abapansi iznyanya come like and visit, like bavugwe into idlozi, you know, where you could feel okay, idlozi likhona. So I also wanted to give this review the discretion that it deserves. And please, I am not a historian. I did history in high school, but they didn't teach us some of the stuff. I'm just reviewing the series. When I say Ushaka this, Ushaka that, I'm not talking about our actual king who has passed on. I'm not talking about Dingiswayo, the king that has passed on. I'm talking about the characters. So guys, please don't come at me saying, hey, but it's inaccurate. Dingiswayo did this in real life. Guys, we're talking about the series here, okay? So now that we have that out of the way, let us get into Shaka Ilembe season 1. Okay, so we have 5 main families: Mhlongo, Zulu, Ndwandwe, Mthethwa, Qwabe. And I like the fact that in the different kingdoms and families, there are different storylines. Like, as much as they're telling the story of King Shaka, we are also learning about the entirety of the Nguni history. I'm not going to say it's the Zulu history, because at this point in time, it's not the Zulu kingdom as of yet. Amanguni is still at the Nguni stage before they were united. And we're learning about the history. We're learning about the different kings, queens, princesses of the past. So what I want to do is we're going to discuss these storylines, because the story is so broad. We're going to discuss it family by family. Umhlongo no Zulu are intertwined because of Senzangakhona no Nandi. So I will be discussing them in unison, but the rest we're going to go over them one by one. Without any further ado, let us get into it, starting with the Ndwandwes. Okay, so the Ndwandwe kingdom is a Godongwana, and let me not lie, this has to be the scariest of scenes for me. Every time I see a Godongwana on the screen, I get terrified, because the amount of witchcraft, the amount of scary stuff that happens in that kingdom, I was fearing for my life. Like, every time I watched, I was always afraid of going to sleep because I was afraid that I'm gonna dream about those hyenas. I thought I'll just hear Ndwandwe's the prince in my sleep. There wasn't really a lot of time spent here in this kingdom, and I really do hope that changes in season 2, which, guessing by the season finale, I'm thinking it will. So when we start out, there's a drought and famine going on in Godongwana. So they go out stealing cattle, like a group of warriors. They're going to steal cattle. They're going hunting on the different lands. But because there's a treaty or there's an agreement between the different kingdoms of the north and the south, Uguti, you will not hunt in our territory. You will only hunt in the north, or you will only hunt in the south. You will not cross this territory and steal from us. So they broke that, but they had to because of the hunger, right? So Abandwandwe, they go into the Zulu territory, Kwanobamba, and when they get there, Nandi was on her way to a cousin's wedding, so they terrorized them, wanted to argue with them. Senzangakhona, being the Zulu prince at the time, comes to Nandi's aid, and they unalive some of the warriors there. And obviously now Zwide wanted to retaliate against the Zulus. The Zulus don't really have a big army, so they go to their ally Mthethwa. They ask Mthethwa, can you join us in the war, because Undwandwe is gonna defeat us. If we go into battle with Undwandwe with just amabutho akaZulu, we're gonna lose. And Mthethwa does assist them, and they win. The queen, Untombazi, at the time, she was the witch, so she was the one doing the bulk of the witchcraft in the series. Kills her husband, who was the king at the time of the Ndwandwe family, because he found out that she was doing witchcraft and that she had this cave where she was hiding this zombie, which was her son. But then he was like, I'm never given birth to a zombie, so you are not my son, and wanted to execute them and execute Untombazi, and didn't want Zwide to sit on the throne because of Untombazi's actions. So then she unalives him, and Zwide sits on the throne. But they're still struggling now for years with the drought, and they wanted to invade other territories and take over them. And they also wanted to get in between the trade, so that everybody who comes, or anybody who wants to trade with the Portuguese, has to go through them, because their kingdom is in between the Portuguese and the other kingdoms, who are our main families in this story, right? But in the end, Queen Untombazi, she ends up using witchcraft to bring the rain, and now they had the rain, they had the crops, they were thriving again because of this. I'm not really gonna get into the brother because we don't really know anything about him. We just knew that he was born with a disability, so that's probably why the Untombazi decided to hide him. They probably would have unalived him just because he was born with a disability. So I don't know if he's Umkovu or not. I'm not really sure, because towards the end of the series, they took off that white paint on him, the white ash, and he was normal, and he could talk, and he looked human. So I'm not sure if he was Umkovu or it's the other one, Umkovu. And the animals that help him, the birds, are the spies, and they help give them information that they can use and utilize against the other kingdoms. We'll circle back to them, because in the season finale, they really did play a huge role. But for now, I would say that we didn't really get a lot of information or a lot of plot points pertaining to the Ndwandwe kingdom. That is all for now. And then we move on to the Zulu and Hlongo families. So like I said, Senzangakhona was still a prince at this time. He meets Nandi while Nandi is coming for her cousin's wedding, KwaZulu. And he's charming her. She's also playing hard to get. You know, they're flirting a bit. But the problem is that Nandi is promised to someone else. She's already engaged. Obviously, Senzangakhona takes that as a challenge. And I'm like, I was shipping them. I'm not gonna lie. I already knew how the story pans out. I already knew how the story ends. He's gonna deny the Shaka and all of that. Like, we all knew that. Like, that's a part of history, like the broader known history about the Zulu nation. So I already knew how it's gonna go, but at the same time I was shipping them. I'm not gonna lie, the chemistry between Senzangakhona and Nandi, exceptional. Radebe and Nomzamo, y'all did that. They really did a thing. Like, they made us see why Nandi was ready to risk it all. They made us see why Nandi was willing to let go of disappointing her family. She's engaged. But, like, I mean, Senzangakhona had that swag, man. Like, he just had that thing that had us rooting for him. And so, in the Zulu kingdom, Isanusi, who is the seer, has a vision. And he prophesies that a great king is gonna come from the Zulu kingdom. Senzangakhona obviously assumes it's gonna be him because he's next in line to be the king. Senzangakhona no Nandi, they do the do. Senzangakhona athi ngizokwenza indlovukazi, and my girl Nandi fell for that. Trust men at your own risk. But our queen also fell for the lies that Adam's descendants are telling us. Like, one thing about men, they're gonna lie. He's like, every action has a consequence. When they had sex, Nandi falls pregnant, and as the months go, she starts suspecting, she starts vomiting, and they leave eLangeni. They go Kwanobamba to go and report ukuthi you have impregnated me. Now the issue is Senzangakhona during this time had to marry this other lady. I forgot the surname. I'm very, very sorry. In order to build an alliance so that they have an army, because the Zulu army was weak. Whereas eLangeni, they don't have an army. They have crops, they have cattle, but they don't have an army. So it wasn't a fruitful alliance at the time. So Senzangakhona marrying Nandi and not marrying that other lady would have put them in jeopardy. So he then decides to deny the child. He not only denied that he impregnated Nandi, he also denied having sex with her. After saying, hey, I feel like my brain was just discombobulated in that moment. I've never been so heartbroken in my entire life. When Nandi started crying in that hut, those silent tears, I felt that. How will Nandi trust Senzangakhona again? Senzangakhona comes to Nandi and is like, I had to marry this girl, but I will marry you as well. I'll make you a second wife. And she asks, how will I trust you again after you've betrayed me? And I felt that, I don't think their relationship was ever the same after that. How will you allow yourself to be able to trust this person after such a huge betrayal, after so much humiliation, embarrassment? He ruined your reputation. You were an outcast in your own home because of what he did. I trusted you enough that when you said you're going to make me a wife, I trusted your word and you went against your word. And so then how can I in turn trust you after this betrayal? Which was deep. I'm actually a bit sad that they didn't go into more depth with that, where we saw Senzangakhona trying to rebuild the trust, because as much as he did marry her in the end, but it's like, how do I know that it's not your family who forced you to marry me, not because you wanted to marry me? I would have wanted to see a bit more of that, of them rebuilding that trust, rebuilding that relationship, because this was a big thing. Like, going against your word is the one thing where, how will I ever trust anything you say ever again? Anyways, so Nandi was the favorite wife. They got along. He married, I think he had like 5, 6 wives or 8 wives. So Senzangakhona was very, very busy marrying Upipi. Now let me tell you guys, Dumantando did an excellent job playing Upipi. No, she was so annoying. Like, I've never ever been annoyed. Well, let me not lie, because there are other characters in the series who annoyed me. But Upipi was one of those, like top 2 and not 2. Like, she was so annoying. Well done, Dumantando, because you did that, girl. You did that. Upipi comes and now there's a battle between Nandi and Upipi. Upipi feels like Nandi thinks she's better than everybody. Nandi looks down on Upipi because Pipi is not from royalty. There's a tiff now to see who's going to be the favorite wife. There's a competition. Obviously, Upipi doesn't like Ushaka and is trying to also impose that dislike on Senzangakhona. Senzangakhona has a resentment for Ushaka. Now, hear me out. For me, Senzangakhona's resentment for Ushaka comes from the fact that Nandi always showers Ushaka with love. But what Senzangakhona doesn't realize is that him having his resentment towards Ushaka and outcasting Ushaka and dismissing him and isolating him and not caring for him, Nandi feels the need to then overcompensate to fill the gap where Senzangakhona's love and acceptance of Ushaka should have come in. Nandi now has to fill in that gap, and by filling in that gap, that takes away from their relationship. So every time Senzangakhona was angry because maybe Nandi was paying too much attention to Ushaka, it was because she was trying to fill the space of his absence, and it was just a continuous cycle, because now the more Senzangakhona resents Ushaka, the more he strays away from him, stays away from him, isolates him, outcasts him, the more Nandi feels like she has to compensate. So then it's just a continuous circle. And it kept going on and on and on throughout Ushaka's childhood. Senzangakhona is compelled by his family, not because he wanted to, but because his family was like, no, you need to bring him closer to you. He wants you to accept him. He wants you to love him. Takes him on a hunt. Ushaka faces off with an elephant and everybody's praising him. Senzangakhona is jealous. Imagine being jealous of an 8-year-old. Now he's being more cruel to him. Sees that Shaka has a goat that has been his goat since he was young. The goat is there. He says, go and kill the goat. We're going to circle back to the goat stuff because I have a theory about this goat. Senzangakhona tells Shaka, slit this goat's throat right here, right now. Shaka is unable to do it because he has a connection, he has an affection for the goats. Senzangakhona and his men laugh at Shaka. Okay, Shaka goes, gets up the courage, works up the courage to have that confidence to be able to kill this goat that he's loved for most of his childhood. Senzangakhona this side has a dream that if Shaka slaughters this goat, he will die. So it was like a prophecy, right? That Ushaka, by killing this goat, will also then in turn kill Senzangakhona. I'm already discussing the theory that I had, but we're gonna circle back to this goat stuff when we're discussing the Mthethwa kingdom. But just keep that in mind that Senzangakhona had a dream that if Shaka kills this goat, Shaka is also gonna kill Senzangakhona. Allegedly. So when Ushaka comes with the dead goat and shows his father, like, Dad, be proud of me. Give me validation. Look at what I did. I did what you asked me to. I killed the goat. Senzangakhona went bonkers. He went crazy. He's like, Kerenangade, do you want to kill me? After that, it was just a constant cycle of Senzangakhona just dismissing Ushaka at every point, hating him, resenting him, and in turn, Nandi couldn't bear it anymore and goes back home. Now they are eLangeni. So now they're back eLangeni, and their father has passed on. So now it's her brother Mkabayi who's in charge, but the brother didn't like Nandi. They had this sibling rivalry, and I sort of believe Upipi when she says that Nandi thought she was better than everybody, because even the brother thinks that. And the brother was still mad because of what Nandi did at the conception of Ushaka. So she is ridiculed. She is outcast in her own home. She is made fun of. Ushaka is also isolated and made fun of, even around the cousins. So this sibling rivalry then in turn translate to the kids. Ushaka no Makedama, who are cousins, they're supposed to love each other and be a unit, and it's supposed to be us against everybody because we're family, we're blood. It doesn't translate to that. Then becomes a rivalry between the two of them. They get into it where the cousin sort of puts Shaka's life in danger, ties him to this tree to be eaten by monsters. At the time, we thought it was monsters, but it was just a tribe of people who actually took care of Ushaka that day and gave him pretty good advice. So then he goes back and stabs his cousin in the thigh with a spear. Obviously, that is an act of treason because you are harming the future king of eLangeni on their territory. They then flee with Qwabe. They flee with Ugetenyane. Getenyane is like, Nandi, I want to take care of you and your kids. I want to love you. Hi, Bo. He's like, I'm not the stepfather. I'm the father who stepped up. They go, Bashalega Qwabe, Getenyane builds a home for them. Ushaka grows older. He goes back Anobamba to go and be with his father because he is still seeking that validation. He's still seeking that acceptance from Senzangakhona. Goes back home, Ahambe, goes to the mountain to get like circumcised, comes back, he's like, Father, I want to learn from you. I want you to take me under your wing. I want you to impart your wisdom on me. I look up to you. Senzangakhona obviously still spooked from the dream and also still angry because Nandi left because of how Senzangakhona was treating Ushaka. But Senzangakhona looks at it as Ushaka took my wife away from me because he's jealous of Ushaka and jealous of the attention that Nandi gives Ushaka. He doesn't realize that it's his actions that drove them away. In his eyes, Ushaka is at fault for all of this. But then because he can't articulate that, he's a king now, he can't be vulnerable. And even if he was allowed to be vulnerable, I don't think they had the words to properly articulate that. So he then in turn insults Nandi, insults Ushaka. Shaka obviously loves his mother. He stands by his mother, and we see that in later episodes as well. He's not going to take anybody talking smack about his mama. In the heat of the moment, he lunges at Senzangakhona and they chase him away. He goes back Qwabe and he goes under Getenyane's wings. He builds his strength, gets some warrior training where he learns the skill of battle, the skill of fighting, and he has a sort of brotherhood. At first, obviously, they don't accept him because they're like, oh, you're just spoiled. But then he proves himself. He proves himself and he's finally a part of a brotherhood. He finally feels like he belongs. Without getting into the Mthethwa drama a lot, because of what was happening at the Mthethwa kingdom, which we're gonna get into next because that was the bulk of where we spent our time. Godongwana / Dingiswayo was claiming back the throne at the time. Mthethwa Umawewe enlists the Qwabe army because they are allies, because the Mthethwa sister married into the Qwabe family, so they are allies. So Qwabe fights with Mthethwa against Dingiswayo. They were going into a losing battle because at the time Dingiswayo was coming with the Ncubes, coming with the Tonga, coming with some of the Mthethwa army, which we will get into when we talk about the Mthethwas. But Ushaka, in his stubbornness and lack of leadership and lack of discernment, he lacked to see Uguti, this is a losing battle. He's a type of person who doesn't want to give up and doesn't want to fail because his father made him feel like a failure. So he's trying to combat that. And Ugetenyane dies. And I think Ugetenyane's death stayed with Ushaka for a very long time, up until this point where we see Ushaka taking over, because he's constantly trying to like the only father figure that I've had, the only person who had taken me under their wing, I failed them. So now he's trying to make up for that. And we see it with when they go Mthethwa. So at this point in time, they go Oyengweni Mthethwa. So the Mthethwa kingdom, the Mthethwa family was introduced during the war. They had a powerful army, so we got to see them first when they were assisting Zulu against Ndwandwe. And Qwabe, the current king, actually wanted Mkabayi to marry him. But then she refused. She was like, I want to stay single. I have a greater purpose to achieve in my home and I don't want to get married. I have a lot of freedoms as well, because when you're a married woman, especially if you're a queen married to a king, you lose some of that power that you would have had if you had stayed at home. Because at home you have that freedom, you have a say, you have so many things. But when you pick up wifely duties, you lose some of that, because now you're a wife, you must just sit back and relax. And I don't think that was in Mkabayi's nature. But one thing that I wanted to talk about was that Qwabe, the current king at the time, he had mental health illness. I think it was Alzheimer's. I'm not really sure, guys. I'm not a psychiatrist, psychologist. I cannot physically diagnose. And the fact that back in the days, there was no word to say this is what this person has. There's no way to manage it. Like, we've come a long way. The fact that we can put a name to a certain thing, this person, this is what is wrong with this person. Because back in the day, he would just lose his train of thought, forget what was happening, lose track of time. Sometimes he would even forget, he would forget who he's talking to. And so now we've come such a long way. The fact that we can put a name to it. It's Alzheimer's, it's dementia. He had 8 sons at the time, and Untombazi, the queen of the Ndwandwes, goes to the Mthethwa family because after the war they had to do like reparations, had to settle things and just say, we don't have a problem with you. Our problem was with all Zulu. They broke the agreement, so it's like, how now are we supposed to trust you? How are we supposed to have faith in you and have dealings with you if you, your new king, can't even keep his word? Untombazi could see ukuthi Godongwana at the time was the king's closest advisor, and he was smart. He couldn't be tricked. He decides to find the weakest link amongst all the brothers. And Umawewe was that weakest link, because Umawewe would have gone along with anything that she said. He was easily manipulated as well. So she then corrupts him, uses witchcraft to convince him to go and tell his father his brothers are planning a coup. So Qwabe issues the order to kill all of his sons except Umawewe. But we see Godongwana escape. He runs with Balega. They run until they find themselves Qwabe, and like I've said before, Qwabe is married to Mthethwa's sister, so they hide him for a while, and then Ungomane and his crew, the warriors Mthethwa, who were sent to hunt him down, they track him down. He runs again and he goes to the Ncube kingdom. Ncube king is played by Usjava. The king Ncube asks him and says, who do you want to be known as? He says, I want to be known as Dingiswayo. Dingiswayo means the banished one or the exiled one. Woman is still hunting him down. They get into a brawl where they're fighting and they get captured by these black dudes. These people are literally selling black people. Like, you're a black person and you're also selling black people. It be your own sometimes. They run away and they find themselves at the Tsonga kingdom. Shout out to Vusi Gunene. Let me tell you something. Vusi Gunene, extremely talented. I don't watch House of Zwide, so I didn't know that Vusi Gunene could speak Istsonga. He's multi-talented, multilingual. So he stays there until he can come back and take the throne. Ungomane swears his loyalty to him. So then by the time that Qwabe dies and word is sent to him, he has the Ncube army, Tsonga army, and some of the Mthethwa warriors, as we've already seen. And he is crowned king. So now when Ushaka is a bit older as well, he comes back. Dingiswayo accepts Nandi and Shaka into the kingdom. He starts with training Ushaka under Mabutho. Shaka at this point now also has that sense of brotherhood where everybody's just here to learn and prove themselves, and they form a brotherhood, they form a friendship, camaraderie, right? And Ushaka trains. Now there's this other legendary guy who was a warrior who has a mental health condition that we don't understand. I think it's PTSD. Like when he came back from the last battle, I think he had PTSD, so he was just always on attack mode. Like he hears a noise, he's gonna attack. And he was busy stealing cattle from the king and also killing people. Everybody was afraid of him. Ushaka's like, can I just have a group of my warriors, some of the Mabutho army, and we're gonna come back with your cows and I'm gonna defeat Ilembe. And he does. He wanted to prove himself because now Dingiswayo is his mentor, and like I said, he never had that father figure, and he wants to prove himself again. He wants to prove that he's loyal. He wants to prove that he's a hard worker and that he can achieve so much so that nobody undermines him, right? Dingiswayo's son is jealous, and let me tell you something. Why are fathers in this era like this? Dingiswayo has his own son, but he treats Shaka more like his heir than his actual son. So Dingiswayo's son, I forgot his name, but he is jealous. And there's also just a little bit of rivalry between Shaka and Dingiswayo's heir, right? Dingiswayo's son. Let's call him Dingiswayo Jr. because I don't remember his name. Let's call him Junior actually. Junior and Ushaka, they have this rivalry between the two of them. Ushaka obviously is now taking Dingiswayo as his dad, and Dingiswayo is reciprocating, and every time Junior enters a room, Shaka's face, he's like, what do you want here? I'm spending time with my dad. That time Dingiswayo's not even his dad. And then obviously at some point they had a feud over a girl. That broke my heart because Ushaka is finally feeling like he belongs. He finds this woman and he's like, oh, I'm finally gonna have maybe a girl, maybe I'll marry her. Then he finds the girl kissing with Junior, and then that ends as that. So Dingiswayo at this point, he wants Amanguni, like all the Nguni tribes, to come together and trade as one, for them to be united. Even when there's a war, they fight as one. Even when there's something that's going on, they are united. But obviously the other kings are reluctant to pledge their allegiance because they're like, then who is going to be in charge of this one kingdom? And Dingiswayo is like, I have the biggest army and have the experience of trading with the Portuguese, so I guess I would be the one. And they're like, hell to the no, we're not gonna defer to you. Dingiswayo now has gathered the alliances of the other kingdoms except Umakedama was eLangeni. Remember, Umakedama and Ushaka have a rivalry from when they were kids. Umakedama refuses to pledge his allegiance to Mthethwa, so he goes to the Ndwandwes because he knows the Ndwandwe and Mthethwa have a rivalry as well. So he goes to Ndwandwe, others Amabutho Akhona, and then they go into war. Shaka has a score to settle, so he also goes to the war on behalf of Mthethwa. So he wants revenge. And when they go into war, man, Shaka's techniques, Shaka's war methods helped them to win the war. They were outnumbered, but they came out on top because Shaka really did prove himself in that moment. Guys, oh my gosh, I was so proud in that moment. Then that happens, and Senzangakhona still doesn't want to put Ushaka on the throne. They invite him over. He comes. Ushaka still wants to try, and there's still that little bit of hope that my dad will accept me after he's seen what I've achieved. He goes, Amsinele, does the traditional dance, shows him like all his achievements. asks him, are you gonna go back with me, Kwanobamba? And Senzangakhona's like, Usgujana, your brother, is the one who's gonna take over. Shaka's like, over my dead body? That is never gonna happen. Let us go back to this goat theory. This goat theory, I'm coming back to it. So Senzangakhona is staying on Mthethwa. They've been invited. He is in a hut. Shaka gets on the roof. He pours something over Senzangakhona's head. There was something in that potion. There was something in that substance that made, allegedly, I am alleging that there was something in that thing. And it wasn't a dream. Because when he woke up, he wiped his forehead and he saw that thing on his hands. But then, after a few minutes, it disappeared. So then I don't know how he did it, because now they framed it as if it was a dream. But it wasn't a dream. It literally happened. And I'm alleging that whatever Shaka put on top of his head, that is what killed him. I'm alleging. I'm not saying that in real life it happened. I'm saying in the story, I'm alleging that Ushaka killed his father. He killed the goat, therefore he killed his father. That's all I'm gonna say. Ushaka goes against Usgujana, they take over the throne, and they live happily ever after, right? No. After the end credits, I'm thinking, oh, what a great season finale. Now we're gonna see Shaka's reign. No, after the end credits, we get a scene where Ujunya goes to Zwide, Godongwana, and he's not only now gonna betray, he's gonna reveal all the information. He's going to betray not only Ushaka, but his father as well. And I feel like that was the setup for season 2. And that was season 2. My thoughts about season 2, I loved it. Other than just me being biased because I am Zulu, but just me loving it as a story. The story, it was expanded more than just telling Shaka's story, told Nandi's story, Dingiswayo's story, the history that is barely ever told is Dingiswayo's role and Undwande's role as well, which we'll see more of in season 2. But they're telling more than just the story of Ushaka himself, where they skim over certain parts, but they're literally telling the whole of the Nguni history, the rich Nguni history that we have. So I enjoyed the story. I didn't feel like there was ever a filler episode or a filler scene where I felt like they were just trying to fill in to get to the 40-minute mark. Everything had a purpose. Every story had a purpose. Every single episode had something to give. There was no episode where I felt like we could have skipped over this. There was no need for this episode. Every single episode was exceptionally shot. The cinematography, and I like that all the plot points were filled. There was no plot holes that were left open for us to figure out in season 2. Literally every single story had closure, had an ending. There's nothing that I have no questions about any other story. The emotions, the casting, the music, the costumes, everything was exceptional. I would give this series, honestly, I'm gonna say a 10 out of 10. Everything was just brilliant. I have no complaints. I have nothing to complain about. What do I expect in season 2? I'm expecting more time at Godongwana, expecting to see more of Shaka's reign, which is likely going to happen. And I want to see more time on the women's end. Because Mkabayi, Tania, Nandi, I want to see more time spent with the women. Because there are certain things that women did at that time. The women had more power, they had more role to play. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Comment down below what was your favorite part of the episodes or the series. Like, comment, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.